Just recently, I possibly discovered where the chemical name tartaric acid came from. Tartaric acid is a selective agent we use to inhibit bacterial growth in an attempt to test for mold. I knew it had the same negative charged ion, tartarate, that was in the cream of tartar, but for some reason in my brain, it never clicked that the cream of tartar was named first. I had always found it funny that there were Russian Mongols named the Tartars who had a similar name, and it wasn't until a few months ago that it clicked. In my new thinking, the Tartars possibly discovered cream of tartar, and the ion was named after the Tartars. We can sometimes do that, having all the pieces laid out, but never making the connection. With these long-standing connections in my memories, a small paradigm shift was required in my thinking, that the names weren't a coincidence, but directly opposite of how I thought about it. Sadly, I can find no evidence of my idea, and it may have just been coincidental with a Persian word that had nothing to do with the Russian Mongols. But for a day, the world felt slightly reversed because my mind was open to a new idea. This form of paradigm shift happens in science quite often. When it does, and is proved inconclusively to be true, it temporarily feels like the world turns inside out, as you now have to adjust your thought process. When an idea occurs in science and pieces just fall together, it can cause this and make it difficult to remain skeptical for a temporary period of time because the paradigm shift was so overwhelming that undoing a paradigm shift is disappointing. When we discovered Ardi and Australopithecus sediba, my understanding of human evolution changed in exciting ways. When the discovery that there is 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA in European humans, which means they interbred with us, which by definition makes them the same species, I had to rethink how I thought about our history, which was exhilarating but mind-blowing. People in science, or people just studying science, have had a lot of practice in reversing their thought process. If unproven common sense is what you were raised with, proven science can go against this and cause discomfort, especially for people who fear change. The feeling of being right is many times too addictive to overcome with just logic. I remember growing up with faith. When no one is challenging your faith with evidence or logic, you can remain relaxed. However, anytime you are presented with evidence, doubt, or conflicting logic, you tend to become tense, especially if it means you will lose some happiness, certainty, comfort, or lead to punishment. I remember growing up, as my doubt increased, it felt like I had to tighten my grip mentally on my faith, or I would slip and fall into the fires of hell. Faith and belief were an active conscious decision, which took a lot of work to maintain, as intelligent and knowledgeable as I was. It took a lot of work constructing my logical house of cards to rationalize my belief. Luckily, as my Christian self would view it at the time, I did not have a clear understanding of the scientific process and the probability of evidence. However, as I began to learn more and more about science, reality began stomping on my fingers as I held my grip on my faith. At a certain point, I relaxed my grip on my faith and it vanished, and very little changed with me except to get better. What you think you know should not require maintaining a grip on it. If your ideas are threatened by new evidence, and you have to put effort into continuing to believe what you believe, then something is very wrong, and you are being intellectually dishonest. Sadly, because change is so hard for the believer, they will ask, why should I change, and what's in it for me? This is something I discussed in the first video of this series. Losing your faith means losing your certainty, and belief in your knowledge of the future. It also means that your invisible friend who loves you unconditionally is no longer there, and you have to actually work at being cared about by others instead. This means you can't be mean, manipulative, or passive-aggressive and still have an invisible person who thinks you are one of the greatest of his creations. As Bill Maher said, religion is arrogance masquerading as humility. Changing your thinking on things like evolution and the age of the Earth also requires a lot of study and research, which is not something they tend to feel like doing. Many of these people did not go into science for the very reason that they hated studying, so why would they want to give up a religion that required research to accept as real? To understand what it takes to get people to reverse their thinking, one has to think about the things that has changed their way of thinking. The following are factors that may persuade the average person to get into the habit of putting the effort into reversing their thinking. Social. Acceptance is one of our core drives. Losing acceptance is a massive loss. To get me to give up something like that, you had better make sure that the risk is worth it. Humor. The ability to understand and laugh at a joke is a reason to change your ideas. Humor was something instilled into me as being important, and I found that the best and most intellectual humor was made by people with different beliefs from myself. Nicotine, too, postulated that fundamentalism stunts humor as they cannot see the absurdity of reality. If everything is God's plan and everything is divine, then it's difficult to find absurdity, especially if reverence is getting in the way. Risk. To a Christian, you're asking them to risk the fires of hell for what you're trying to tell them. Why should they bother learning it? To them, it holds the same risk versus reward as you telling them to cut off their hand and bury it, and it will grow them another hand. There is the risk that you could be wrong. The change will be very painful, and they don't see how it will make life any better. I didn't have a cell phone until 2007, which made dating very difficult for someone with zero experience. I could not see a reason for getting a cell phone, but I was making several cell faux pas that in the days of landline would have been considered regular phone etiquette. Now that I have a cell, I will never go back to a landline willingly, but until I experienced the advantages, I thought it was a waste of money. The same is true with texting and IM. I'm sure there will be new cloud sites and programs that I don't know I can't live without, and might shun until I experience them. When you get used to the paradigm shifts of reversing your thinking, you get better at it. Instead of thinking of them as scary new ideas, discoveries become exciting. You can be okay with being agnostic about the world around you because you know the levels of probabilities that something you know will change, and when something does, like the latest finding of stone tools were probably used by aphorensis, it will surprise you, but it will also excite you instead of scare you. Hey guys, a fairly new YouTube user named Painful Mass actually made a video called Why Do Intelligent People Believe in Religion, and stumbled onto my series because of it. I told him I should sue him. We both enjoyed each other's videos, and his will be added to my Intelligent People playlist. Go subscribe.